All right, we are live, Gail. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
To talk with you.
Yeah.
So I jotted down a handful of things that I knew I would like to talk with you about. And just for our audience members and for you too, I mean, the reason that I wanted to talk with you is because you are pretty active there on social media and you definitely have some strong opinions. And I tend to agree with most of them, not all of them, and not everything of everything, but it's clear that you care. And I want to talk to people who care. And I want to talk to people who are at least trying to do something, But the first thing I want to talk about is like where I know you from, because I don't even really remember. I know it's something to do with Penn State, right?
I don't remember either, but yeah, we must have met at Penn State.
At some point or another.
You were in a grad program.
I was.
Right? Yeah, well, me too.
So was it did you do the REST program?
No, I was in HDFS.
I don't know what that is, but.
Yeah.
That's okay. But what I really remember you from, though, is you made a post on Facebook. I think it was probably more than a year ago. And it was good. It was like I remember the theme was something along the lines of like, unless you're a Native American, like we're all immigrants. So like recognize that as like fact. And like I was like, that's good. This is a good reminder for people to like recognize that we all came here from somewhere,
Right.
I forget. I chimed in on there or something, thought it was cool. And somebody like attacked you. I don't know who that person was. They like basically attacked you. And I was like, I don't remember who he was, but I'm like, you're ruining the internet. You're the reason that I don't do this anymore because you were terrible, And then he attacked me. And I was like, oh, that sucks. He called me like a soy boy and stuff. I didn't even know what that was at the time, but apparently I'm a soy boy because I like defended that thought that you expressed,
Okay.
So I was like,
I think I know who you're talking about with this soy boy comment.
Right. So, and I didn't know who he was, but I didn't care. I was like, I think I responded back. I was like, ouch, that hurts, man. Like, I'm just saying, you don't got to be so mean,
Yeah.
At least be like, you can disagree in like an intelligent way. You don't got to be like a dick about it,
If you're intelligent, you can disagree in an intelligent way.
Right. And therein lies the problem, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember you from that, and then I remember like sliding through some of your other posts and comments and stuff, and it's like clearly there's a theme here. You seem to be a pretty left-leaning, liberal type person. That's all good. I kind of find myself more in the middle. It's all relative too. Like standing next to you, I'm probably conservative. Standing next to a conservative, I'm probably liberal. Whatever.
Yeah.
But the reason I started this, or one of the reasons I started this Declaration of Interdependence effort, is because I really think people need to come together, This divisiveness is like not useful for anybody, And I see really smart people like yourselves and some others like putting together like really well-written, intelligent posts on social media only to be like bashed and like arguing with people. It's like, is it useful? I don't know. I'm not sure, I'm hoping that this platform might be more useful. I don't know. Having a conversation that's a little more free flow, where people aren't hiding behind keyboards and really getting to express themselves how they feel and why,
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you've read the thing that I wrote, the Declaration of Interdependence, and kind of extracted any thoughts from that, but I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts before we dive into anything else there.
I did take a look at it. I didn't analyze it in depth, but I took a look and I think, it would be hard to disagree with. We do need people to come together. We need to, quit the divisiveness. And I love the idea of using technology to enhance democracy.
Right.
And I think that that's, one of the best things we could get out of the technological revolution, which, I am of the opinion that the United States is not and hasn't been a democracy, if ever. So,
it's like democracy-ish. It's like sort of.
I think it's got the illusion of a democracy, but no more than an illusion. So,
it's good.
That we have a long way to go to be a democracy.
Yep. And what inspired me here is, well, I just recently hiked the Appalachian Trail, so I had a lot of quiet time without influence. You know, being back here in the quote unquote real world is kind of difficult. There's a lot of influence. There's a lot of noise. The TV's on. It's in your head. There's people saying this. People like it's hard. But when I had some time to think, what's that?
Nature.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I started thinking about these things, you know, and I kind of realized we have all the pieces that we need to take democracy back, give it back to the people, you know. Like the examples that I kind of cited in my write up there is like Wikipedia, like that's not open source, but it's like crowdsourced, right? It's like no one created that, everyone created that, you know.
Right.
And you have things like blockchain for tracking transactions securely, you know. And things like social media, like super easy, like you have old people, young people, everyone can do it. You know, it's not that difficult. I think there might have been one more, but I forget. But basically combining those into a new platform, a new form of not quite social media, but a new sort of platform that allows people to submit ideas and like upvote, downvote ideas, you know, and if you can gain enough support, you don't even necessarily need the infrastructure that currently exists. You know, it can kind of compete with democracy in like a game B sort of an idea. I'm not sure if you're familiar with game B, but it's basically like competing against something with the same rules, but like not needing it. You know, it's like Wikipedia was a good example of that. You know, it's like nobody has encyclopedias at their house anymore. I mean, some people do, but like you don't buy a new encyclopedia every 10 years anymore. People don't do that, you know. Instead, they had this new revolutionary technology that did the same thing, only better, you know. So what I'm envisioning is a platform that, you know, it can be tied to your voter ID. You can submit your votes like, you know, anonymously encrypted through, you know, like blockchain technology. And we could submit plans that like don't work within the existing infrastructure. So like I just had a podcast with my friend Jerry, who I just posted this just now. So obviously you haven't watched it yet, but one of the things we talked about was something like getting rid of the Electoral College. You know, there's a lot of institutional inertia in the way of getting rid of the Electoral College, right? Yeah. There's a lot of big things in the way, right? But if we were to create a platform where people could vote with their like a secure program, and we showed that we have like 100 million supporters here to get rid of this. It's like, why couldn't we get rid of it? You know? Right. So that's where my head's at with all these things. I think it's possible. I think the pieces are there. I'd really love to put a team together with some smart people, and
you need some real techies.
Yeah. There's some tech there that's not me. I don't have that skill set exactly, but you know.
You have to connect with them.
Right.
So that reminds me of an idea that I think I came up with. I never really heard anyone else say it.
Right.
A couple of years ago, or maybe like in the last election, that I would love to see a candidate run on a campaign of with no actual platform of their own, where their whole campaign, and this is a very unsophisticated explanation of it, sure. And it could be developed more sophisticated, but where the campaign would be, you don't have to agree with me. I have no ideas. I'm just going to do what you want. I'm going to do what the public votes for. And that's the kind of candidate that I want to see running in elections.
And I think it says a lot about the state of current affairs that, like, isn't that what they're supposed to be doing? But, like, the fact that that's, like, a new idea is, like, crazy.
I know. I think that, like, I kind of grew up thinking that's what it was. But, like, it turns out that, like, no, you have to, like, pick the one that, like, you agree with the most, even if, like, 90% of the public doesn't, you know, there's, like, 20 of their platforms that we don't agree with. It's just crazy the way it's done.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, and it's divisive, and I don't know too many people that are actually happy with the current setup.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't
like
think
there's people who are pro-Trump, obviously, but they're still not, like, if you ask them if they're happy with stuff, they're still not happy with everything. You know, they're still kind of like bummed out about whatever.
Yeah, they're just under the illusion that Trump is going to fix it or make it better, or that it's improving because of him.
Right.
Which I think is the illusion that anyone is under for any candidate that they support. You know, whether it's an illusion or a reality could be debated, but
right.
That's the idea, right? Why would we support anyone if we didn't think they're going to actually fix this?
Right. Yeah. So one of the bullet points I have on here is next presidential favorites. I'm going to go on a limb here and say you're probably not going to vote for Donald J. Trump, and that you might have some other people in mind that you would prefer. And I was in the woods for so long that I kind of stayed. I haven't really been fully in the loop, but I'm kind of curious, like who you like, or who are some of the people that are kind of running right now that you would like to maybe see gain some traction.
How long did the AT take you?
8 months.
That's a while.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like 6, but it was way harder than I ever imagined it would be. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am a diehard Bernie.
Okay. Yep.
So, you know, there's no one else that really I would be happy to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
I may suck it up and vote for Warren if it comes down to it.
Mm-hmm.
In 2016, I voted for Bernie in the primary and Jill Stein in the general because I just do not, and I know this is very, it's controversial and that's very debatable, and I totally see points on the other side, but I just do not believe in voting for someone who's going to represent corporations. I just don't, to me, that's absolutely crazy. So even if it's in the lesser of two evils, I can't vote to give away my representation.
Right.
I just can't do it.
Yeah. I don't know if you watched South Park, but they did an episode when the 2016 election was going on, and it was like they basically made the joke is it's choosing between a giant douche and a turd sandwich, and like that's really what it feels like. Sometimes it's like, we don't have any. They're not giving us any good choices, which I think is by design, personally.
Oh, definitely, 100%. Yeah.
And that leads me back to something I talked about in the podcast with Jerry a little earlier today was ranked choice voting. Are you familiar with ranked choice voting?
Yeah, I think it just passed in New York.
Did it? Good. Good.
I think. Good. So yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's good to see it spreading. I think the pickle that you were in there between the lesser of two evils wouldn't be quite as conflicting. You can still list your first choice as Jill Stein and list Bernie as your second choice, all the way down to Donald J. Trump as your billionth, 10 billionth choice or whatever it is,
Right. Yeah.
So, and it probably wouldn't be like that, but still, your top 10, whatever. So you don't have the situation of the wasted vote when you vote for the third party candidate who's maybe a little more left leaning or whatever. You feel like you're quote unquote wasting a vote to not vote for the Democrat or whatever. I like to get people out of that pickle because it's absurd that these two, the red and the blue team, have so much control over everything. It
is absurd. And again, like you said, it's also by design.
Mm-hmm.
And though that the legality of that is not stuff that I'm familiar with, but in conversations I've had with people, I've picked up over the years that like there are so many laws in place that make it impossible for a third party candidate to gain any traction.
Right. Yep. Whether it's just the way the primary is set up, or there's like 100 things probably. And if we do get enough support behind this movement, I would love to put a team together to challenge some of those things on a constitutional level. Like it shouldn't even be legal.
It's true. It's true. And there's so many things that like gerrymandering shouldn't be legal.
Exactly.
I mean, all the shenanigans. I don't know if you were familiar because I think you kind of had to like be a little tapped in to certain areas during the 2016 election, but there were so many like real voter suppression things going on.
Mm-hmm.
That are unbelievable that we allowed that to happen. What happened to Stacey Abrams in Georgia too, where she was up against the current governor who had all kinds of control over voting issues because he was the current governor. Like,
right.
These things are crazy.
Yeah. So that's ultimately what I'm trying to get towards with this movement, is like asking people to submit their plans for renovation as if all of these institutional inertia like wasn't in the way. Like if we were going to tear down the room and rebuild it, what would it look like? How would it better serve the people? How could we structure it in a way that's, that's just better and more functional and doesn't lead to such chaos and misery for so many people,
I think that's awesome. Another thing that I would like to see, like technology, I guess sort of this would be like in the absence of a complete overhaul and like, a candidate that's running just on what the people want. I'd love to see some kind of a internet version of a way to figure out what, like, everything about a candidate, like what their voting record is, and I know these pieces are probably like in different places scattered all over the internet, but there really should be something that brings it all together, where you can go on and you see like how did they vote on the crime bill in 1990 whatever, and all of those things, and like who their funding comes from, what PACs are they taking money from, and just like anything, what their platform is, but it's all there in one place where someone who doesn't really know about, how to find all this information can just like easily, point and click.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea, especially because it is so complicated now with so many different candidates and so many different, they all have their own history. And you're right, we could track all that information and it could be easily compiled into something that can be presented. And, you could even like put them on like a score almost for whatever category, they lean this way in this category and they lean this, visually to help people understand and digest the information,
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, I think one of the most important things, like, at least when I think about how do I determine if I can trust a candidate or who I want to support, is their voting record. And like, even as someone who's relatively politically savvy, I mean, in my own way,
sure,
I have no idea how to find that other than just Google it. Yeah. And if it doesn't come up, then I'd be done. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the things I would see as like, that should really be front and center. We should be able to find, if we want to see how someone voted on like an EPA budget or anything, like just from whatever issue we're concerned about.
Your boy Bernie, he's got a pretty good voting record on some of those key issues, doesn't he? Wasn't he?
That's one of his, one of the things his supporters really, rally behind is, Bernie's honest because you can see it in his voting record. He is consistent. He votes the same way every time.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, when you look at other voting records, they say one thing and they vote differently when the bill comes up in the Senate or in the House.
He's the senator from Vermont, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Well, when I hiked through Vermont on the AT, I was kind of bummed out because it's like, I've been a fan of Bernie in the past. I don't know where I sit with him at the present moment, but like Vermont was kind of like run down. Like it was pretty it's pretty poor. When I was talking to somebody there, they said that it was like the second poorest state per capita in the continental U.S. behind, I think, Missouri. And when you're there, it's like, it's pretty evident. It seems like there's like a lot of poverty. There's like a lot of obesity and like drug abuse. And like, I'm not saying that's like that disqualifies Bernie, but it's definitely like something to take note of,
Yeah, I get you. But keep in mind, a senator in Washington, D.C. doesn't really do much to individually help their own state.
Yeah, it's tricky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's sad to see, and it's certainly not only Vermont that has to deal with that, like I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania, and like, not to pick on them, but it's definitely been like, it's rough, It's.
I wonder, I don't want to detract from, the sadness of what you're describing, but I wonder if, living in Vermont and being connected to the community there is something that helps Bernie, understand what the plight of so many Americans' lives they are.
You can't look at that and think everything's fine.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah. So on the AT, you go into town a lot, right?
Yeah, about every 3 or 4 days, we'd pop into town and get some food and maybe get a shower and keep it
Okay.
rolling. You know,
Yeah.
I forget the name. Vermont is, you're not a very long section in Vermont, but I forget the name of the town that we were in. Just, it was like right before we got into Massachusetts. So,
Okay.
but anyway.
Yeah.
So the next thing I want to talk to you about, and these are kind of related, is we're not exactly on the same page here, but I'm hoping to just understand a little better. And so it has to do with diet, and I'm sort of inferring that you're probably a vegetarian and maybe even a vegan, as you claim the innocent turkeys, which maybe they're innocent. I don't know. And kind of like, reminding us of what Thanksgiving is, and like, well, it's two things at once, and that's something that I struggle with a lot, is like duality, right? It's like Thanksgiving is like, for me, it's probably my favorite holiday, because it's like it's a reminder every year to be thankful for all the things that we have, and to like get together with family and just enjoy food and enjoy time with your family. And it's like probably my favorite holiday, But you're right, in that it has this history of, basically shitting on the Native Americans for the last 400 years or whatever, And then the turkey piece got me, though. And I did the vegetarian thing for a little while. I think like 6 months, maybe 8 months. I don't know. But I joked on the trail when I was talking to somebody that, like, if like all we had to do to save the planet was like stop eating meat, I would probably tell somebody, you're going to have to come up with a plan B, because I don't know if that's going to work,
Yeah.
So have you been a vegetarian for a long time, or is it like something you were born, like family, or tell me about like your history with that?
Yeah. So I have been vegan for 8 years.
Wow.
8.5 at least.
Yep.
And I was vegetarian for, I don't know, a year or two before that. And
Mm-hmm.
before that, I was pescatarian.
Mm-hmm.
So I gradually changed my diet starting when I was 19
Yeah.
for health reasons.
Yeah. That's my next question, was like,
I think
what was the
initially,
motivation?
yeah. So a lot of the changes started for health reasons, but very quickly comes, when you're researching in this path, and I, come from a very scientific educational background. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're researching, you very quickly find a lot of animal issues and environmental issues that come into play as well. So over the years, it kind of just layered all on top of itself. So it's hard for me to now even say like which one really it was.
Right. Well, it's a combination, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And good health. The vegan thing's working out. Do you do any supplements, or and I'm
So
not a health expert, but this is something that I'm like interested in and passionate about. So I'm always trying to talk and learn.
yeah, sure. So when I was at Penn State, I was in school I was studying parent-child relationships in a multidisciplinary program that was mostly focused on psychology. So I just, as a side interest, became interested in nutrition, and I kind of ignored it because I was in that field and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided that field was killing me because I hate writing, and I'm sure, as you know, any PhD program requires a ton of writing.
Yeah.
So I left the field and I did some other stuff for a few years, some teaching, and then I ultimately decided that I wanted to be in the nutrition field.
Right.
So I went back to school, and now I'm a registered dietitian.
Cool.
Yeah. So in the process of all of that, most of my education was self-taught, just reading studies as much as I could.
Mm-hmm.
And the data for, what foods are healthiest is very, very clear.
Yeah.
Towards plant-based. And it's whole food plant-based. So you'd be avoiding a lot of junk, that is popular, that people like. So in terms of health, so vegans do need to take a couple supplements. So we need a B12.
B12, I knew that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then most people will probably do best with a vitamin D supplement also.
What was the first you said? Vitamin D. What would you say before that?
Most people would do best with a vitamin D. It's not
Oh,
necessarily required for everybody, and a blood test would be a quick, easy way to determine if you're one of those people. But most people probably need it because depending on where you live, you're not getting enough sun throughout the year to make your own vitamin D. And then skin color is a factor also. Like darker skinned people don't make as much vitamin D. So, and if you're vegan, you're not getting it from milk, which is supplemented with vitamin D anyway.
Right.
It's not really naturally occurring in there. So you might
it.
as well take the pill yourself rather than get the supplement another way.
Yeah.
Then there's some sort of other nutrients that are like more of a maybe. Depends on how you eat and different things. So you can do flax seeds for omega-3. There's some evidence, not really strong, but some evidence that there might be benefits of taking like an algae-based vitamin omega-3 supplement.
Okay.
In certain situations, I might recommend a zinc. Zinc can be found in nuts and seeds, but if you're healing from surgery or trying to heal a wound or something like that, then you might want some extra zinc. And then iodine, if you don't use the iodized salt, then you'd need to do seaweed, which is not really common in American food.
No.
So if you're not going to eat seaweed, you might want to take an iodine supplement. But for the most part, most people who eat plant-based actually get more nutrients than people who eat animal products and plants.
Yeah. So I think it's funny, the one thing you said about how like nutrition became sort of a hobby, right? You used the word hobby. And I think that says a lot about the current world we live in too. Is like food is like one of the most important things in the world, right? To people, right? So the fact that it's like becomes a hobby, it should be like a priority for everybody, right? To like educate themselves on their food system and where their food comes from and how that makes them feel. And, it should be like, and if you think like only 100 years ago, it was that way, or maybe 200 years ago, whatever. But now it's like so many things are factory made and so easy that you don't even have to think about it. It doesn't even have to be a hobby. It could be something that you just do, and it's kind of sad, I think,
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm wondering too about like, I don't know what the word is. I want to say like genes, like how your genes affect or how your diet affects your genes or how your genes affect your diet. And whether, I don't know, I'm not an expert in this, but this is something I've heard some people talk about, and whether like the vegan thing, is it for everybody? Is it possible that like you're really healthy on a vegan diet, but another person doing the same thing might not be doing so well? And like similarly with like the carnivore diet, I know one example with Dr. Jordan Peterson and his daughter Michaela, where they both had severe autoimmune issues, and now all they eat is like beef and salt and water, and they've like never been healthier in their whole lives, So I know that's one or two people, but I wonder how much that plays into it,
Yeah, sure. So statistically, right? And I am not the kind of person who really has much difference in the way I feel based on what I'm eating. I know a lot of people do, and I think that's for most people, it's a blessing in disguise. But for me, I don't have that feedback within my body. So I can only determine my health based on, blood work and statistics. Like statistically, what are my chances, kind of a thing.
See.
So statistically, people who eat primarily plant-based, or the more plants people eat, the less their chance of all kinds of heart and cardiovascular conditions, all types of cancer, cognitive function, like things like dementia and Alzheimer's down the line, autoimmune issues, asthma, allergies, all kinds of things like that, right? Diabetes, of course, right? So those chances go down with the more plants people eat. Um, there are people that I've heard of. I think I met one maybe once who switched to a plant-based diet and they don't feel well.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say like why.
Right.
What are they eating? You have to look really at what they're eating, and maybe they're missing a nutrient that they need to supplement. Or some people's bodies, everybody is different, and some people there's like things that need to be converted from our diet into the form that our body uses it in.
Right. Yep.
And not everyone converts everything in the same effectiveness.
Yep. That has to do with the genes and stuff too. It's like, are they? Yep.
Yeah. There is one of the like leading plant-based physician experts who has a theory on why some people don't feel well when they switch to a plant-based diet. It has to do with the amino acids, converting amino acids, and I don't remember the details exactly of it, but something along the lines of one of the amino acids that our body can make. So we don't have to eat it, right? It's not one of the 9 essential amino acids. Yeah. But when we're eating animal products, we're getting that amino acid. So our body kind of stops making it because it's like, why would I waste my energy on that?
Right. Sort of supply and demand sort of or something.
Yeah, sure. So that person whose body stopped making it, they go on a plant-based diet, they no longer have that amino acid, and their body, for whatever reason, where I think most people probably, their body starts making it, theirs doesn't. That's the theory.
I see. That makes sense. It's like your body isn't equipped for the transition for some reason. It's like doesn't have the tools to make the switch as quickly as it needs to.
Yeah. And it's just a theory, but it does make sense.
Right. Well, whether it's vegan or it's vegetarian or it's carnivore or some paleo or pescatarian, I think it's all good in the sense that it leads people away from like super processed foods. I think that's really what's killing us.
I agree with you, and I think that's why when people do keto or they do the carnivore, like you said,
right,
or whatever it is that they do, and they feel better, it's absolutely 100% because they've cut out processed food.
Yeah. And it's hard because it's like a drug,
Yeah.
Especially it's a drug you've been doing since you were a kid.
Exactly.
Not you, but people,
Right. I know.
Drinking soda and eating cookies when you're a kid. I mean, I was like that too,
Yeah, and that stuff is genuinely addictive.
It is. It's designed by chemists and really smart people to trick you into not only liking it but wanting to eat it more of it,
And in so many ways.
Yeah.
In so many ways. It's not just what they put into the food, which is a huge part of it, but then it's the marketing, and it's not just marketing like in the public outside or on TV. They market in schools to children. They create nutrition education that goes directly into, they create textbooks and stuff. That's all just designed to increase their sales.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Like the thing that got me too is like the food pyramid that we're all taught as kids. Isn't that like just a lie? Like, is that really like, it's a lie, right? Like the base of carbs isn't what you need at all, right? You need like nutrition, which is like comes from like vegetables and protein sources and things like that,
Yeah. So
that's like
they redo the nutrition recommendations every 5 years. So
the grain lobby must have been really strong that year when they made that one, huh?
Yeah. Well, I think it's always been. I mean, grains are incredibly nutritious. Whole intact grains.
Right.
Flours made from whole grains are a little bit less nutritious, and then refined flours are not very nutritious at all.
Basically sugar.
So, but whole grains, intact whole grains especially, are incredibly nutritious. Yeah, should we be eating? I don't remember what the pyramid said. It was like 6 to 11 servings, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now they're using the My Plate is the new nutrition recommendation. So it looks like a plate, which makes a lot of sense.
Like a pie chart.
And it shows you like your, quarter of your plate should be vegetables, a quarter should be fruit, a quarter should be grains, and a quarter should be protein, which I would say you should get from beans, but they say it can be beans, can be nuts, and obviously animal products as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. So are you like organic vegan too, or is it just like, because that's something that I struggle with sometimes, is like sort of a, I'm kind of cheap. I mean, I'm not like, I understand that it's worth it to spend more and stuff, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Does it really make sense to spend like the extra dollar on like bananas? Like, I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, so in terms of nutrition, I think it is worth it for something called the Dirty Dozen.
The Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, this is something the Environmental Working Group evaluates every single year. They test the amount of pesticides on every fruit and vegetable,
Okay.
and then they make a list of the 12 that have the most. Sometimes it's more than 12, but they still call it the Dirty Dozen.
Right. Okay.
And then they also make the Clean 15, which is the 15 that have the lowest pesticides. And so for the Dirty Dozen, I think, yes, we should be buying organic, ideally, for our health.
And the risk there is like cancer, essentially, right? From the pesticides and things?
Yep. Some people have other issues, more immediate.
Allergies.
Some really bad GI problems, skin problems, allergies, all kinds of stuff. And really any health condition that anybody has, it's really hard to say why they have it. Maybe it's because of a buildup of toxic chemicals in their body.
Right.
So outside of the Dirty Dozen or the Clean 15, I think, then you can kind of just decide based on price. Mm-hmm. But another factor that I think about frequently that I think really should be a part of the decision is the workers on the farms.
Yeah, because if you think you're getting cancer from eating some of it, those people are definitely getting cancer from spraying it every day and being in it every day for 30, 40 years or whatever.
Yeah. So one of the nonprofits that I've worked for many years is a social justice education, a humane education organization. And we teach a lesson on child migrant farming. And most people don't know, but in the United States, it's legal for children as young as 12 years old to work on farms throughout this country. And there are very little to none protections for them. They're kind of exempt, or at least the laws that exist are not enforced from labor protection laws. So they're not really given breaks. They work outside for 12 to 15 hours a day. It's pretty insane. And they have pesticides sprayed directly on them. They're in the field working when the planes fly over and spray those pesticides. So yeah, they get health issues from that. And their risk of cancer obviously is through the roof. And it's horrible.
Yeah.
And so if not for our own health to buy organic, then out of respect, for the workers, when we support organic farms, at least the pesticides, organic is not pesticide free, but at least the pesticides sprayed on them are not as harmful.
Wow. Yeah, I'll admit I didn't even think much about those people, to be honest. I was more thinking about myself and saving $1 or $2, So, that kind of raises the next question of like, from a government policy standpoint, like, how do you adjust for this? Like, because this is something that I struggle with a lot. I see people like making criticisms, but like, what do we do? Like, how do we do what are we supposed to do? So like, what would you think would be something that might work to like maybe bring down the cost of organic or bring up the cost of other things or make, because on one hand, like these pesticides and fertilizers and things have enabled the mass production of food, right? But on the other hand, it's killing some percentage of the population through, terrible illnesses and things. So like, how do we adjust? How do we So one answer is like, as the individual, make the purchase, right? Spend the extra 10, 15%, whatever it is. But is there something more that we could do that you think?
I'm sure there is. I'm not going to claim that I have all the answers. My first thought in response to that question comes to subsidies. So right now we currently heavily subsidize animal products to the point where they are a fraction of the amount that they should cost to the consumer. And then we pay doubly on the other end when we're, dealing with the health issues of that those animal products statistically are responsible for. So it doesn't make any sense, obviously. The only reason that those subsidies are in place, this is maybe debatable, because I know that a lot of the general public would support those subsidies because they don't want to give up their meat and their dairy.
Right.
But if they were properly educated on it, they might feel differently. And one of the main reasons those subsidies are in place is because the meat and dairy industry heavily lobby the politicians to keep those subsidies. Well, I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with subsidizing anything.
Right.
But if we're going to subsidize something, why isn't it fresh fruits and vegetables? Why isn't it organic fruits and vegetables? Though, it's just outrageous that those things cost more and you can go to McDonald's and get $1 cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Right? So I think subsidies, changing the subsidies over supporting small farms, supporting urban farming, supporting, some of the old methods that are starting to come back very, very slowly. There's a word that I'm not thinking of right now, but the more earth-friendly types of farming that protect, the soil and
like whatever the opposite of monoculture is.
Yeah, there's
word.
A fancy word that's not coming to mind right now, but permaculture is what it is. Yeah. So things like that, increasing the education around those things, and then increasing, the support from the community and from the government. I think that farmers markets coming back is a really positive thing, and community supported agriculture, the CSA boxes that's becoming really popular. Those are the first steps towards, reducing the prices and making organic produce more accessible.
That was a hell of a deal when I was in the CSA. That was like a steal. I think it was only like $10 a week and you get like a whole box of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And like you spend $10 on organic bananas for like a bunch of them or whatever,
Sure. Yeah. And if that's enough to keep, a local organic farm and business, then sign me up, sign everyone up. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus it was fun too, because like, when I go to the store, I usually end up buying the same things over and over again,
Right.
Where like there was like kind of random. You get whatever and you got to figure out what to do with it. It's kind of a fun little game. Like, what's in the box? Not to quote Seven. That's a different what's in the box.
I only did it for a short time, but it was the first. I got one box. It was like all rutabagas and turnips, and I had never eaten them before.
Yeah,
and I didn't know what they were really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like and it can expand your variety, which is really, really important for health. Eating wider variety of plant foods. The other thing that comes to mind also is I am a member here in Brooklyn. We have an amazing place called the Park Slope Food Co-op. So it is a very, very socialist business. Every member, there are 16 or 17,000 members, and we are all part owners, and we all work there for 2 hours and 45 minutes every 4 weeks.
Oh, that's not bad. That's hardly anything. 3 hours a month.
Exactly. Yeah. And the prices are much lower because no one is making a massive profit off of this. It's so unbelievably democratic. We hold a meeting once a month not that many people go. Out of 17,000 members, only, let's say 200 or 300 attend a meeting on a good month.
Right.
But everything is done democratically. We vote on, and when there's something that's important to people, a lot more people come to the meetings so that they can vote. And something like that as a way, I mean, that's something that I support just in general for any business. I think all the time, if you're not familiar, there's a economist named Richard Wolff who I listen to a lot. He does like monthly or maybe weekly even video posts where he talks about the economy, and he's very socialist. He has an organization called Democracy at Work. And his definition of he almost never talks about the government or socialism in the government. He focuses on socialism in the workplace, where there's no one owner. Everyone owns the business. Everyone receives the profits equally, and everyone makes the decisions equally and democratically. So this, I think, is the future of the economy if we want, things to be more equal and for everyone to have the same chance.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, as an employee versus like a part owner, I feel like you'd be a lot more incentivized not to like waste time, because like you're paid for the hour, you get away with wasting an hour on your phone or whatever. It's like, man, maybe I will, but if it's like, hey, I'm part owner in this company, maybe I shouldn't be wasting time. It's like really everyone's incentivized to do well.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's something that just I think is, and it's funny, like, because the idea of it comes from Karl Marx. This is not something I've researched really in depth other than just listening to Richard Wolff talk about it, but it's old. It's not a new concept, but it seems really innovative compared to what everyone does today, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I love this co-op, and the prices are amazing. Almost everything is organic, although there are some things like if it's going to be a big price difference, then they have a conventional option and an organic option. And they have the staff there, which there are like, I don't know, 50 or 100 paid staff. The buyers, they like go to the farms. Like I've heard them say, I went to Italy to they actually go to the farms and they talk to the farmers and they see what goes on there. And you go to a regular supermarket anywhere else, that doesn't happen. They don't have any clue where that stuff comes from that they're putting on the shelf. So I think that that's the direction that we need to move. We need to be verifying. We need to, have those relationships come back where the buyer, the consumer, the store, is actually connected with the farmers and seeing the farm. And when you create all that disconnection, it just allows for so much injustice to take place.
Yeah. And it seems like something like that's socialist in nature seems to work pretty well on a small to medium sized level. Do you think that something like that would work at a larger scale? Like, I don't know if you identify it like as a socialist or a communist or whatever, but this is something that I've, thought about, and I'm not sure how I feel. I think I've kind of wavered back and forth, and I think I guess I'm curious to see what you think about all that. Like,
I think it all depends on how it's done. I don't think it's impossible, but I guess there has to be a lot of integrity, in all of the people involved.
Right.
One of the biggest criticisms of democracy, and this is, when we're talking about democracy in the workplace or in the government or whatever, but one of the biggest criticisms is if you have an uneducated, democratic voting base, then you get poorly made decisions. So that's a totally valid criticism. And unfortunately, in the United States, that criticism has come to bear because people have I think very intentionally, eroded our education system.
Yeah.
In order, this is my opinion, in order to dumb down the population so that they can control who they vote for, what they buy, all these things, right?
Yep. Yep.
So if it's going to work in a large setting in the workplace or, you know, in the public, it's going to require that, you know, people are really, really well educated, well informed, that we don't have fake news. Like, you know, I mean, but that is a threat. It's a threat to democracy, right? So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, for me, it seems like balance is always the key, right? It's like we live in a democracy-ish, like we said, right? But it also has a lot of socialist programs built in, you know, that people can argue are good or bad or whatever, right? But it probably would be worse if there were none at all, you know?
right.
And similarly, like unrestrained capitalism isn't necessarily good, but like no capitalism, like if the what did you call it? Parks Food Co-op? Is that what it was called?
Park Slope. That's the name of the part of Brooklyn that it's in.
Park Slope.
Yeah, Park Slope Food Co-op.
So if they like weren't focused on like being financially savvy at all, or you know they weren't being wise in their purchases, like they wouldn't work either. You know, no one would be like, I'm not doing that. Like, you know, so it takes balance.
They have to be able to pay the rent of the building, and you know, we do maintenance. We do, you know, the staff has to get their salary paid. They have really good benefits. They have their retirement, you know, pension and everything. So, yeah, there's got to be financial savviness. I'm sure I'm trying to think of a better word, but yeah.
And then you bring up Karl Marx, and I see there's a lot of activity on Facebook these days about like billionaires. You know, people are like upset with the billionaires, which like I get it, you know. But I wonder, like it's like kind of, it almost feels like contradictory sometimes when they're like on their PC, like on Facebook, like ordering stuff off Amazon, and they're mad at like Jeff Bezos and the Facebook guy and Bill Gates, you know. It's like, okay, like what are we supposed to do here, you know? It's almost feels like contradictory in and of itself, you know.
I don't think so. I think that we can. It's fair to. First of all, I think Amazon is incredibly evil, so that's a little bit of a separate issue. But
okay.
If we're talking
we can
about
take them one at a time. I didn't mean to lump them all together, but those are like 3 billionaires off the top of my head that people seem critical of recently.
Let's say if we're talking about Mac products or Netflix or something that like is a pretty good device or service, right? I think that it's fair to expect, you know, in the technological revolution and all the intelligence that we have and human capital that has gone into creating these amazing resources, I think it's fair that people want to use those resources. What I don't think is acceptable is the CEO of these corporations oppressing their workers domestically and internationally, destroying the environment to get the natural resources needed to make those products, or destroying the environment in the process of making them and distributing them and all these things, and then profiting in the billions of dollars from all of that. I mean, I think those are separate issues. It's not to say that just because we don't agree with them amassing, you know, unbelievable personal wealth means that we don't agree with them selling a product that we like using. I think, you know, we can separate those things. You can sell a product that lots of people value without doing it unethically. I'm not sure that we've seen any examples of that necessarily, but I believe that it's possible.
Yeah. I saw someone use the word seize the other day when they talked about the billions. If we seize their wealth, and that made me really uncomfortable because I don't know about you, but if you had $100 billion, would you let somebody seize like 99 billion? I don't think I would, you know? So it kind of, first of all, I mean, whether you would or you wouldn't, I don't think these people would, you know? And then I also think about, like, I took a class on Martin Luther King when I was at Penn State, and Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott was something that I think about a lot. Like, instead of complaining about how much Jeff Bezos has, like, why don't we do like a boycott of Amazon? You know, if you really wanted to do something, you would write to Amazon and you say, I'm not going to buy from Amazon until you do X, Y, Z. You know, state your demands, and then hold up. You know, I don't know where you're going to shop instead. I mean, Walmart's not any better when you want junk from wherever. But you know, you have to put a plan in place and like put some pressure on them, because complaining about them on the internet, I don't know how effective that is in actually changing anything. You know, like the workers can do a lot themselves too, right? But if they had support also from the people that are the consumers, you might actually get somewhere. You know?
Yeah. I'm 100% on board with you. I'm actually personally strongly anti-consumption in general. I don't buy things on Amazon. I can't remember the last time I used Amazon at all. I don't buy new products ever at all.
Yeah.
Unless like it's an absolute emergency, which hasn't happened to me.
Right.
I can't remember the last time. So
yeah. That was something really on the trail. You know, we're living out of a backpack. You don't need that much. You really don't need that like extra like set of, I don't know, mugs or some little toy for your kitty or something. Like, you just don't need it. It's just, you just don't, you know? You can live out, like, you only need like food, water, shelter, and like a social connection, you know?
Yeah. And it's amazing when you exercise, you know, that kind of understanding of what's really important in life, how much you realize like all of these things that I've been like convinced that I have to spend my money on.
Yeah.
But I don't. I don't need that stuff.
No. They end up in the way anyway, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then something else you said about like some of these companies doing damage to the environment, you know? And that's something I'm passionate about, is when it comes to like the role of government, like what is government supposed to do? Like what is their job, you know? And something I think that gets undervalued is protecting the commons. And I don't think they're doing a good job of that right now, or at least they could be doing a better job, you know? If these companies are destroying the environment, that's our environment. You know, we need that. And just because they can profit off it doesn't mean like they get to, you know, at least not without paying for it, you know?
It is outrageously unjust. And I honestly, I'm shocked every day that we are not out there in the streets making a fuss over this every single day. I don't understand. I really don't. And I know
I understand. It's a lot of work. It's easier to just order the stuff off Amazon and eat the McDonald's and not worry about it.
Yeah.
You know? Turn on the TV that's like basically free, and you know?
Yeah. But
I know what you're saying. Like it's infuriating that we're not doing more.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That we're just allowing this to happen. And if humanity makes it a couple more generations, which I'm not sure is a guarantee, they are going to be so furious with their predecessors for allowing, not just the people who did it, for all of us for not stopping them. Yeah.
I kind of got out of the sustainability stuff a little bit because it was kind of bumming me out, you know? It's kind of a bummer. Like I'm trying, I don't know, you know, it's like I kind of settled on just hoping that we're going to figure it out, you know, whether through technology or through working together. Something's got to have to bail us out because we're not doing enough fast enough to fix it, it feels like. And it's kind of, it's frustrating beyond, you know.
You put your attention on it, then it's unbelievably overwhelming and discouraging. Yeah. So I get it. Yeah. I'm not the kind of person who can turn away. It's just not me to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But I get it.
It's not that I turned away entirely. I just kind of removed myself a little bit to take a break from it, to like, and that's part of the reason I went and hiked the trail too, was I was working on it for like 10 years and I wanted to take some time to figure out my next move. And it seems like this podcast is part of the next move, and maybe that'll result in some positive change.
That's
If
cool.
not, I'll probably go back to being an engineer. I'll probably do that anyway, you know. But I have one more question for you because
Sure.
we're almost at an hour here, and I don't want to take up your whole night. Um, and I'm not even really sure where this is going to go, but it seems like to me that the political is often tied with like the religious. At least it can be. Do you identify as any sort of religion or have any sort of religious beliefs that you think like are kind of fundamental to these other beliefs, or are they completely separate and not related, or how do you feel about all that?
Um, so, for full disclosure, I am Jewish. I was raised pretty secular in the Reformed synagogue setting.
Yeah.
Um, so, I think I don't want to speak for other people in my situation,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
typically Reformed Jews are super secular and, um, essentially don't have much in terms of religion that bleeds into other parts
Hmm.
of their life, like their political beliefs, for example. And I would, I guess, put myself in that category. I believe very strongly in separation of church and state. I don't think that religious beliefs should um, influence our political choices at all.
Mm.
Um, my Now then there's like sort of, I don't know if you separate necessarily religion versus spirituality, but um, if I and
I think they're different
I
sides of the same coin, in my opinion.
yeah, I identify with Judaism in terms of tradition and heritage and that kind of a thing.
Mm.
But in terms of spirituality, um, my spirituality is based on my overall, way of looking at the world, which is through a lens of reducing suffering of anyone and everyone as
Mm.
much as we possibly can.
Hmm.
So that's where my spirituality might influence my political values.
Mm.
So, spiritually, I think we need to protect the earth because if we don't, it causes human suffering and animal suffering, of everyone.
Right.
So that's where my political values are determined, is based on who's going to suffer and how can we stop it.
Yeah. Excellent. I like it.
Yeah, thanks.
And for me personally, I was like roughly agnostic or atheistic, whatever you want to call it, for like most of my life. Pretty much made fun of anybody that said anything different, you know? But over the last year, maybe two, I began to look at these stories, especially the Old Testament stories, as if they had something to teach me that I didn't know, you know? And I've been able to extract a lot of value from them, you know? Like something you said about the suffering, you know, and it's like it's inevitable, right? Like if you look at the Noah story, right? The flood's coming. Bad
Right.
things are coming, and they're coming for all of us, you know?
Yeah.
And the only way to protect yourself against them is to like put your life in order and like to work hard and make the right sacrifices, because then maybe not everyone will die, you know? We might be able to salvage some of this and do a good job, you know? So that's been helpful for me personally. And I can't help but like look at political things through that lens now that I've learned some of those things, you know? So, and what scares me the most is people who don't have any of those thoughts and are like purely nihilistic. I think I think that's one of the most dangerous things you can do for yourself, you know? Like I went to a concert there in New York like a couple weekends ago in Terminal 5. And like one of the bands, there's like, they were so terrible, but like they end their thing with like, this is our hit song. And they're singing, they're like, nothing's cool and nothing matters. I'm like, oh my God, that's not the right answer. But I mean, granted, they probably wrote that song when they were like 20 or something, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like lots of things are cool and like lots of things matter and like certain things matter more than other things. And it's like, you got to have that to have some sense of direction, you know?
True.
Or else
Yeah.
why not just burn it all down, you know? So,
Right.
but let's not burn it down. Let's keep it rolling, you know?
we're hoping it doesn't burn down. I don't know that we can stop it at this point. So
maybe it could be a controlled burn where not everything goes away. Where we can keep some good things and get rid of some bad things. That's what I'm hoping for. At least that's the aim of this whole movement is for me anyway. You know, take a good hard look at ourselves, figure out what parts of us aren't serving us anymore and need to be replace it with something better. You know, it's a lot of work, but I think it's what we need to do. So
it does need to happen.
Yeah.
It needs to happen.
Well, it was great talking with you.
Thank you. Yes, you as well.
Any other questions for me right now, or?
What do you see as like the next step for the movement, or for where you're going to take this?
I'd love to put a team together and build this platform, to build not like quite a social media platform, but a platform for real democracy, you know, where things are tracked. Like if I post something that's, you know, my idea for something, and then someone comes on and just blasts me and is calling me names and stuff, like that's tracked. Like we know that person is like not providing useful criticism. They're being a bully, and that's like tracked, and we know that now, you know? And like also like you talk about like, well, your voting record is kind of weird because maybe that's supposed to be private, but things like that, like being able to track all that. I'd love to put a team together to at least talk about what building that platform would look like. It's probably going to take some funds, so I'm hoping some people continue to donate. I'm going to keep doing this podcast, keep talking to interesting people. If for no other reason, then it's fun, and I enjoy it, and I'm learning, and hopefully other people are learning too. So I'd love to put a team together. I don't know who those people are right now, but I'm hoping that some of these people that I talk to on the podcast, maybe they'll be part of the team. Maybe someone will see it and read it, and they'll want to be part of the team. And I don't know. It's kind of like a loose plan and a grand vision.
Sure.
I know which direction I'm trying to go, and just trying to see if I can get there a step at a time.
All right. Well, I wish you lots of luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for talking with me. I really appreciate it.
You as well.
Take care of yourself.
You too. Good night.
Bye-bye.